Students at Florida State University in the state capitol have come out against proposals in the legislature to roll back gun safety laws. This in the aftermath of that campus shooting that left 2 people dead. Last week's mass shooting also left 6 others injured and occurred just a mile away from the state capitol. The 20-year-old suspect, Phoenix Eichner, is an FSU student and the stepson of a Leon County Sheriff's deputy. He was shot by officers and taken to the hospital. Earlier this month, the Florida House voted on a bill to lower the age limit to buy a rifle from 21 to 18 years old. The age had been raised by lawmakers in the aftermath of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in 2018 in Parkland that killed 17 people. Florida state students and Democratic lawmakers held a news conference this week opposing the rollbacks. Additional efforts to loosen Florida's gun laws have stalled as well, including measures to repeal red flag laws and lifting the prohibition of rapid-fire gun accessories, also known as bump stocks. And a Senate committee voted down a bill that would have allowed concealed weapons on college campuses. Jonathan, I'd like to start with you. You were telling me that your sister is a student at FSU. Also, your partner was attending Parkland when that shooting occurred. Your reaction when you see the impact of the shooting on this legislative session that's now the bills on gun laws have been stalled?
I'm glad to see that these laws have stalled because they would have been horrible mistakes. I think it is totally embarrassing that that's probably the only thing that this will achieve, and the Florida legislature might make that out as a win, that we didn't roll back the protections that we were forced to put in place after Parkland. Gun death and gun-related crimes are the leading cause of death amongst teens and young people. This isn't only something that happens in schools, it happens all over the country. And the Florida legislature could absolutely do more. They could be proactive to do something about this. The weapon that was used in this shooting was an improperly secured weapon. The young man was able to get it because his mother was stepmother was the sheriff, right? And even basic common sense things such as making the very weak safe security laws or safe storage laws that we have now apply to more circumstances are very easy changes the Florida legislature can make. But rather than try to protect students or young people and as a whole group who, again, #1 cause of death is gun violence, they are trying to roll back those protections. It's as if we're saying, let's have all the kids smoke again, and we're going to call it a win that we're going to stop that. It's embarrassing, the response.
Tom, during your time in the Senate, there's so many voices that you hear from when you're, especially on an issue as passionate as people are about gun control and gun laws. What are some of the things that the legislators really have to consider when they're going through the process of looking at a bill?
Well, this is a complex issue. I had the challenge of being the chair of a committee, security committee, when shortly after Parkland took place and the hot yoga incident in Tallahassee, and had dinner with the father of the girl that died there and met with the Parkland families. These things are tragic. The solutions are pretty complex, and we convened a series of hearings at the request of Senate President Bill Galvano that included federal, state, local law enforcement, criminologists from academia and what have you, and the solutions are really complex, and there really is no consensus. We're a very divided country on the Second Amendment issue. What we did learn, though, is that we have an abject disregard for the sanctity of life in this country. There has been mental health issues for as far back as we can remember,
yes.
And people have had challenges in their personal life, but how they act those out today is just extraordinary relative to what it has been throughout history. So we really have to look deeply into these mental health issues.
There are other issues that are embedded in the problem of solving the gun crisis.
Depression is a real thing, but what people do when they get depressed these days is pretty horrific and unconscionable. And until we get back to being a society that has more respect for the sanctity of life, I think these situations are going to continue.
Mike, just this week we saw the sheriff's deputies stopping a man in Brandon who was dressed in full camouflage, walking down a main thoroughfare in Brandon with a rifle, refused to stop in his tracks. Police had to open fire on the man. It seems like we hear more and more about these cases. Do you think that that's just we're more aware of the stories because they get more coverage, or is that something that you find is changing in your career as an investigative reporter?
Well, it seems to me that one of the biggest problems, first off, the FSU shooting was an outlier because he used a pistol. Most of the mass killings are with automatic weapons. And it seems to me, I'm not a gun owner, but the Second Amendment is here to stay. Guns are not going to go away. It's embedded in our society. I don't understand why there isn't a ban on automatic weapons. And people say hunting. Well, people don't go deer hunting with an AK-47. To me, it would save so many lives if we banned the sale of automatic weapons and the bump stocks, as they were talking about in the piece leading into this. That seems to be the problem. There has been, just since I've been covering it, more and more automatic weapon slayings in our country. And besides hopes and prayers, as every politician says, after there's a shooting, if we could just ban that, it would save countless lives.
And that's one of the things that the students from Tallahassee this last week and also students from Parkland have said, we don't want to hear anymore that you're sending us your hopes and prayers. We want to see more action.